Greetings, Anonymous Party members. Greetings also to those of you who are considering joining the movement. As usual, if you are unfamiliar with the entirety of the project that I'm doing, I would strongly encourage you to watch one of the introduction videos available on the party's website, www.anonymousparty.org. There's a lot more to it than just some of the discussions that I'm doing in most of these videos. I am actually running for president, and some of the videos that may not be extremely obvious, some of them obviously it is, but over the months, over a year I guess, since I've launched this admittedly ambitious plan, I have received a lot of compliments, a lot of suggestions, a lot of criticisms, and even some insults. But mostly I've gotten questions, and I actually knew that would happen. I mean, after all, I have no political record. I have no publicly visible record, so to speak, that anyone can actually look at and see what it is that I believe or what I stand for, where I stand on certain issues. That information just isn't available about me because I'm not a politician. I'm not a public figure. At least I wasn't in any sense until I launched this campaign. So that's actually why I, from the beginning, had planned on continuing to make videos to explain my positions and my beliefs, what I stand for, what I feel is important. But this video, I plan to address what is actually possibly the most common question that I've gotten, and that is, what can I do to help? Well, I have had a few ideas on that, and I've actually even put a few things out already. There's Project Anonymous Goodwill, which if you haven't watched the video for that, I encourage you to do so. There's the YouTube video contest, which is a video explaining that as well. Both of those were designed to direct attention to the movement from online or from community level activities, but sadly I have yet to receive any entries into the YouTube video contest. If anyone has attempted to submit one and for whatever reason I haven't gotten it, please try and get a hold of me and we'll figure out how exactly that went wrong. But I haven't actually heard any specific stories of random acts of anonymous goodwill being done either, at least outside of me and my immediate friends and family. However, it's clear that attention is being drawn to what I'm doing somehow, since at least some of the new hits to the Facebook page and the web page seem to be the result of something other than my videos, at least directly. Whoever is behind it and whatever you're doing, thank you. As long as it's legal anyways. If what you're doing is illegal, which I have no reason to believe it's not because I have no idea what it is you're doing, but if it is illegal, I'm not really in favor of using illegal means. If whatever you're doing should be legal, then I will do what I can to change that if and when I have any influence in that area, but for the meantime let's try and keep everything legal. What I do need now, though, however, is kind of a step above the other two ideas that I've had so far. Every day that goes by brings us closer and closer to the next election, presidential election that is. The Democrats seem to be leaning heavily towards Hillary Clinton. She is a woman with a record of incompetence, indifference, and no real success to her credit outside of at least her personal finances. She's a socialist, she's in favor of Obamacare, Common Core, and net neutrality. All bills that drastically reduce freedom, harm the very thing that they're attempting to correct, which is either healthcare, education, or internet. And to top it all off, she clearly thinks that she's better than the working class American, which is evident in the way that she treated White House staff. during her husband's time in the Oval Office, and the way she treated the members of Congress when being questioned about Benghazi. She was very frequently rude and impossible to please when in the White House, or when as the First Lady. She did not even want to see maintenance crews at all, or the housekeeping staff any more than what was absolutely necessary. She once pitched a fit, just pitched an absolute fit, because she witnessed somebody changing a light bulb. If only my life were as hard as hers, perhaps I'd understand. But on the Republican side of things, it's not looking a heck of a lot better, but it is looking better. But I don't think that's going to stick around long, because the primaries have a tendency to weed out all the actually even remotely desirable candidates in favor of the ones that are, quote, electable. What exactly does electable mean? Able to be elected. Well, you would think that somebody's ability to be elected would have more to do with their, their policies, their track record, their character, stuff like that, rather than just their intangible sense of electability, which is something that they attributed to Mitt Romney last time, which clearly his electability wasn't as high as what they were hoping for, since he couldn't even beat Obama, whose approval ratings were already on a steady decline. Bad choice. Really, there wasn't a whole lot of issues that I agreed with Mitt Romney on, at least significant issues. The only one being that he was against Common Core, which I clearly also am. But anyways, among the candidates who are at least possibilities for this time, I think there's like 17 or 18 people who have at least thrown their names into the ring, hoping to be considered. Most of their favorability ranges from tiny steps up from Obama, all the way up to, in at least one case, a possibly tolerable option that I only have a handful of significant complaints about, at least as far as what I know about him thus far. I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about Republican options either, but I will say that Jeb Bush is probably the tiniest step up from Obama out of all the people who have thrown their name in the ring. Though I admit that I haven't researched all of them sufficiently enough to say that there isn't somebody worse. Excuse me. I will also add that Ben Carson is probably the, at least the possibly tolerable candidate I was talking about. He, even though he'd be running as a Republican, and that's the party he'd be considering running under, up until at least last year, at least early last year, I know that he didn't consider himself part of either party, and he thought that it was a better idea to have a different party. He said if he was a member of a political party, it would be the Common Sense Party, and it would be a party that would make legislation based on common sense solutions that everyone can understand. And as far as that goes, that's my kind of thinking right there. Now, there are some issues that I don't definitely 100% agree with him on, like he's not quite on the same page with me as gun control. He is for mandating vaccinations, which I'm not. I think if a vaccination is worth getting, then its track record and its effectiveness should speak for itself, and no one should be like, oh, I'm not getting that. If you want to avoid getting whatever disease, you'll get the vaccination if it's proven effective. So, you shouldn't have to make people do anything. Anyways, if anyone wants to know any more about my opinions on Ben Carson or any other candidate, feel free to ask. I'll try to get around to answering all the questions, but unfortunately I don't always. But what I am going to go over in the rest of this video is some of the plans for what I'm wanting to do. We are going to need a representative responsible for coordinating within each state to find out exactly what has to be done to get my name on the ballot, at least as a valid write-in candidate. Many people don't know this, but you can't just vote for anyone. My high school teachers, at least most of them, had gotten this wrong when teaching me government. They told me that I could vote for Mickey Mouse if I wanted to, I just had to write his name in. Well, even back then I kind of figured that that was probably wasting a vote, since Mickey both isn't a real person and he's highly unlikely to get a majority of votes. But I didn't find out until later that even if you picked somebody who was a real person, like let's just say I wanted to vote for my own father, it still would likely be a waste of my vote, since they only count valid candidates that are meeting all of the requirements in each state. So you could be a valid write-in candidate in, say, half of the United States, but not in the rest, which would drastically limit your ability to get elected. In fact, possibly even eliminate all possibility whatsoever. It kind of depends on which states. So what I'd like is state coordinators, and I'll need at least one per state, possibly 2 or 3 depending on how populous the state is. And really, if 2 or 3 wanted to work on it, even in the least populous states, that's not going to bother me at all. Having at least 2 or 3 people is probably just adding a couple extra layers to make sure that everything gets done. It'll definitely help out. But these people would be responsible for finding the requirements, acquiring any necessary forms, filling out these forms, making any necessary phone calls, and forwarding these forms to me for signature if necessary, and turning them into the proper offices. In addition to that, I guess this is a little bit off of that topic, but I'm actually hoping to do like a weekend campaign conference thing in June of this year, 2015. Immediately prior to that weekend, so the week leading into that weekend, I'd like to meet with as many of the organizers, the coordinators, as possible, and also anyone running for an office as an anonymous party candidate. For those people who would be meeting that week, it'd be a week-long event. We would outline a few charter documents for the party. We still need like a mission statement and what I guess would kind of amount to like a constitution for the party, I guess like an outline of what it is we stand for on whatever issues and that sort of thing, as well as possibly a few other documents. But I'd kind of liken this to how our founding fathers had met to outline the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. This would be by invitation only and will ideally consist of somewhere between 25 and 50 people. These people would then be actually signing a physical printed out document, which hopefully we can find somewhere that'll print it on some more durable type of paper than just regular old paper. But hopefully we can get something like that done and actually sign something so we can have some physical evidence, some physical item that can be attributed to this whole event. But the weekend portion of the campaign conference will include public speaking events featuring any candidates who would like to say anything, including myself, of course, as well as possibly a few of the organizers and maybe even some of my family and friends who have been very encouraging in what I'm doing. Right now, I'm looking at possibly having this event in Kentucky. If so, right now where I'm looking at, I guess, is Bardstown. It's not really a huge place, but it is a very historical town. It's got tons of antique shops, dozens of museums, a lot of very old buildings, and if I'm not mistaken, the oldest still operating tavern in the United States. I'm not a drinker at all, but I do still find it fascinating. If anyone has any other ideas, though, somewhere else that they think would be a great place to have it, I'm open to considering just about anything, but I'd prefer that wherever it is be at least approximately centralized in the continental U.S. I know Kentucky's a little east of the center, if you made a geographical center of the United States, but it's at least close enough. Basically, I'm trying to limit the travel distance as much as possible for as many people as possible by placing it central-like. So since I'd be driving there and back, like most of you, I'm not wealthy and I don't want to spend any more than I absolutely have to on this. So especially since I don't have a campaign fund, nor will I have a campaign fund, so everybody would be paying their own way, and I'd like to make it as easy on as many of these people as possible. But to sign up to be a coordinator, just go to the party website, www.anonymousparty.org, check out the forums, and go to the candidates section. In that section is a subsection for each state. Go to your state and then post there what you would like to do, whether that be a coordinator, work with a coordinator, or if there's a position that you'd like to run for, like governor or one of the senators or whatever, post that there as well. Now you can both run to be like a governor or senator or whatever in your state and be a coordinator. I'm not going to restrict anyone from doing both if they're that motivated or that ambitious. But if you're doing one of those, though, please go there and sign up and put your name down so that I at least know that it's taken care of. But if someone has already signed up as coordinator in the state that you're in, and you still want to do that, get a hold of that person and try to work together with them just to make sure that everything does actually get done. I'd actually kind of like to start being able to check some things off of the list of what needs to be done in order for me to actually be on the tickets when election day comes. Now, I know that there's at least a handful of states, at least a handful anyways, where I won't be able to have my name actually appear on the ballot and I'll only be able to be a write-in candidate. I know West Virginia has rules that make it almost impossible for me to have my name on there, since I'm not running as a Republican, a Democrat, or I think the Libertarian Party has had candidates on there before, but I don't think they're eligible right now. And there's another party, it's either the Green Party or the Mountain Party, I forget which one, was eligible or has been eligible for actually longer than the Libertarian Party, and I believe they still are, but the Anonymous Party has never met the qualifications for that, and it's too late for them to meet the qualifications for that, so there's no way that we can get a candidate on the presidential ballot either. But moving on, I guess, well, almost nobody has actually asked me this question. There has been maybe one or two, I guess, but have I thought about who I want to run with me as my vice presidential candidate? And the answer is yes, I have kind of thought about it, and I'll admit I've had a couple of, dream scenario candidates, but these people may or may not actually have any interest in doing it. They may not. I don't actually personally know any of them. I don't actually know a whole heck of a lot of people outside the state of Indiana. I work with a couple that live in Ohio, but I don't think any of them are old enough, for one, and two, I don't know that they'd even be interested. I haven't even heard any of them talking about politics much, other than a general Obama sucks kind of comment, or complaints about the healthcare law. But anyways, since I don't have anyone specific in mind, at least seriously, I am kind of hoping that either through this, since I'm giving people an opportunity as coordinators to actually do a job and show their character and show their ability, I'm hoping that at least one or two of them will really stand out as having impeccable character and impeccable ability. So I guess in a sense, if you're signing up to be a coordinator, you're signing up for at least a chance. Obviously I can only grant this to one person, but you're signing up for a chance to be a vice presidential candidate. However, if you live in Indiana, I'm kind of hoping you're not the one that I like the best in that category, because you'd be automatically disqualified due to requirements that have been posed by constitutional amendments. Originally, according to the constitutional method for choosing a president and vice president, the president and vice president could technically have been from the same state. A lot of people don't know that. They always thought that they had to be from different states, and that's not the case. It's just that the original way that the president was chosen was all the candidates would say, hey, I'm running, and then the Electoral College would vote, but every person in the Electoral College would get 2 votes. Of those 2 votes, one of them could be, didn't have to be, but one of them could be for a candidate from that member of the Electoral College's own state. So let's say that say I was in the Electoral College and I'm from Indiana. If somebody from Indiana was running and there was 4 or 5 other people running, even if my favorite candidate was the guy, from Indiana, I could vote for him with one of my votes. But if there was, say, 2 people running from Indiana, I could not vote for both of the Indiana guys. I had to pick just one. So if an Indiana guy, or if Indiana was to have both the president and the vice president as the elected, or the people that were chosen for those positions, since the person receiving the second most votes was the vice president, it was possible, however unlikely, for 2 candidates from the same state to receive the most and second most number of votes. It just wasn't, like I said, it wasn't likely. But as they amended the process by which a president was chosen, that's actually the single most amended detail in the Constitution, is how a president is chosen. It's been changed, I think, it's either 5 or 6 times. I'll have to go back over that again. But it's been changed multiple times, and there hasn't really been a whole lot else that's been changed more than once. But the only thing is the prohibition issue, which was alcohol was prohibited, and then that prohibition was reversed. But nothing else comes to mind as being modified more than once. But I guess moving on, that's really all I had for this video, I guess. But I do kind of want to take a minute to remind you all that we are, all of us, we are the people of this nation. The people that the Constitution was intended to empower through its restrictions on government to control us. The government has been slowly pushing us into a corner, limiting our options and narrowing our margin for our liberty. Who's behind this control anyways? Who, like the Wizard of Oz, pulls the levers and tells the lies? Political giants, corporate giants, working together to control the people, never realizing that they are destroying the very freedoms that enabled them to become wealthy and influential people like they have. Yet, they have allowed greed and power lust to drive them to enslave the very people who buy their products, the very people who voted them into power, or the very people who fought to protect their ability to make those products and to express those opinions as they have done in the first place. We, the people, need to watch our politicians more closely. We need to ensure that they are not enslaving, that they are not robbing from or taking advantage of us, the people. We need to preserve freedom of speech in all of its forms. We need to preserve our freedom of choice, and we need to do it for our grandchildren, for our children, and yes, even ourselves, because it is in that immediate of danger of being lost that this generation, any day we could see the last of our freedoms taken from us. There have been too many pieces of legislation passed that have drastically reduced our freedoms, that have taken liberties with our liberties, that they've taken everything away from us and given it to the government. The Patriot Act comes to mind. The Environmental Protection Agency's rampant confiscation of property, their control over things, the NSA. There are way too many fronts from which our liberty is being assaulted, and it needs to stop. Because without us, without the people in charge of our country, like a bus without a driver, we are headed for a crash. And the people on board are in grave danger. We need to take charge of our country. And this is how to do it. That's what this mission, that's what this whole project is all about. The people are the country, and we are the people.